Okay, Russell, go live.
Long time no see, and welcome to
Russell,
tonight's council
thank
meeting
you.
for February 2, 2021. Ms. Neese, do you mind calling roll?
Thank you and good evening. Councilmember Risto.
Here.
Councilmember Hudas.
Here.
Councilmember Badami.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rennie.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Sayoc.
Here. Thank you. And Mr. Schultz, closed session report?
Yes, good evening, Council and Mayor. Prior to tonight's regular session, Council met in closed session to discuss labor negotiations. No action was taken in the closed session that requires reporting under the Brown Act.
Thank you. And council manager matters. Vice Mayor, since our last publicly scheduled meeting, share with us how busy you've been.
It was actually less busy than last time. Let's see, 120, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District had a special retreat meeting. Again, I wasn't a board member yet. I became board member February 1st, but I attended that anyway. On 122, the VTA board had a workshop. Again, as alternate, I attended the workshop there. There was a little more discussion on the Measure B 10-year spending plan that's been controversial, but nothing really new to report there. And then on 126, Councilmember Risto and I met with the high school environmental outreach club, which was quite interesting. That was it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. You called on me before I even raised my hand. Quite a few meetings, although I guess what's worth reporting is along with Councilmember Badami and Councilmember Hudes, I remotely attended the League of Cities New Council Members orientation, which covered quite a range of topics, but that spanned January 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th. And it was really a great orientation for new council members, talking about financial obligations and responsibilities, land use policy, our legal obligations, civic engagement, and I appreciated not having to commute all the way to Sacramento, but it was great to connect with people and learn so much. And I imagine my fellow council members feel the same way. On the 25th, I met with the Director of Health at El Camino Hospital, discussing their offering to the community of COVID-19 testing as well as vaccines. I know that their vaccination link is also on the town website. So through the variety of channels people have for vaccines, that is one of them. It was, I thought, the 24th. Well, anyway, yeah, the same meeting that Vice Mayor Rennie brought up, where we met with the Environmental Outreach Committee, really engaged group of high school students. They talked to us about what their goals and desires were for climate action at Los Gatos High School, as well as what they'd like to see happen at the town level. And, I know that'll be an ongoing conversation. On the 25th, with the mayor, I participated in the policy committee meeting, where I don't know if you're going to expound more on that, but basically we just started looking at the work plan for the upcoming year, and that's a monthly meeting. So people who are interested in new commissions, changes in commissions, policies, check the website for our meetings and agendas. Earlier today, I attended the Safe Routes to School Education Subcommittee meeting. And with students back in school starting yesterday, there are bikes and scooters showing up in the bike racks, and there will be probably virtual bike rodeos, there's pedestrian training, and there's need for volunteers. So if there are people out there listening who are interested in helping with active transportation, Safe Routes to School could use your help. And then on the 21st, with Councilmember Badami, we participated in the GPAC discussion on the land use element, and we'll be meeting this upcoming Thursday, starting to review the community design element. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hudes.
Thank you. I attended the Cal Cities training program. I also attended the Cal Cities homeless workshop, and also the Cal Cities Peninsula Division meeting. And I met with a member of the Los Gatos Ad Hoc Wildfire Commission. And let's see, I attended a Santa Clara Valley Water Commission meeting as an alternate. And I attended the Silicon Valley Interoperability Authority Board of Directors meeting, and as an alternate, but I substituted for a member in voting in that meeting. And I also participated by listening to the Historic Preservation Committee with many new members, and I have to report that that committee is up and running, and that's just terrific.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Badami?
Thank you, Mayor. On January 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th, I attended the League of California Cities Academy for newly elected council members. I learned a lot, along with Councilmember Risto outlining some of the features that we learned, and Councilmember Hudes. On January 21st, I met with the General Plan Update Advisory Committee to continue updating the land use element of our draft general plan for 2040. On January 26th, I met with John Cowan, the Director of Government and Community Relations at El Camino Hospital. It was an introduction and a goodwill conversation as to the general services provided to our community. On January 26th, the council met and approved strategic priorities through 2023. 2 priorities were added for community vitality, engaging seniors, and diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. On January 26th, the council met as a study session with the newly formed Finance Commission. And earlier this afternoon, I met with fellow council members in a closed session as reported by our town attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. And in addition to all those activities that have been reported out by my colleagues, Town Manager Pavetti and I participated in the West Valley Mayors and Managers. It's a monthly meeting where we discuss, at this last meeting, we just discussed upcoming items we'd like to collaborate and discuss. And ongoing Saturday calls that I attend with Assistant Town Manager Andrews with the county to just get updates on COVID testing, vaccinations, and outreach and messaging for the week. So thank you very much, everyone. And Town Manager Pavetti.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things. First of all, the recruitment is underway for a single Finance Commission opening. This will be the mayor's appointment. Applications are due on February 19th at 4 p.m. Please see the clerk's website for more information. I also want to highlight that our library department has a wonderful set of February programs, everything from art projects to celebrating Black History Month to story times and other things. So please check out our library offerings for the month of February. Thank you.
Thank you. So council members, I have 6 items on consent tonight. These are items that are non-controversial and we think that can be approved through one motion. Would anyone like to pull it though, in case you would like to discuss? Seeing none, I ask the members, oh yes, Councilmember Hudes.
No, I was going to move to approve the.
Okay, just a second. Let's see if anyone from the public would like to pull anything. And seeing none, I will go to you, Councilmember Hudes.
I move to approve the consent calendar, or the 6 items so listed.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Risto, I saw your hand up.
Yes, second.
Okay, and let's call the question. Councilmember Risto.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rennie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hudes.
Aye.
And Councilmember Badami.
Aye.
I also vote aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now at verbal communications, and this is an opportunity for those in our public attendee list to speak to us on items not on the agenda. Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes to share items of concern, that these are items that we will not be engaging in. I see no hands up. Actually, I see one, Jeffrey Suzuki.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay. During the last week's meeting on the strategic priorities, I talked a little bit about the police department and how on the work plan we should be prioritizing certain things, like, for example, the full development and execution of independent oversight, data collection on arrests, citations, and incidents, and the development of resources specifically dedicated to dealing with non-violent incidents in town. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough time to talk about another issue, which is the issue of housing. We had a community conversation on housing last year, and on this issue, I see that prioritizing overseeing the BMP. I see that we prioritize overseeing the BMP in the work plan, but from the community conversation, there was pretty wide consensus that the BMP program alone was insufficient to meet Los Gatos' affordable housing needs. Reforming the BMP and/or drafting a new program in its entirety, I believe, should be an explicit priority moving forward. If the BMP is insufficient for rental units, we need to make some other program that is. From a legal and practical perspective, this has to be done. We have to have some sort of large-scale reform of either existing programs or new programs. There's really no way around this. Finally, I want to return back to the idea of the diversity, equity, and inclusivity community that was heavily discussed last week, which was that the reality is that every committee and commission will prioritize their day-to-day operations over the vast issues of social justice, discrimination, really broad topics. And we are always told that it takes time. And I agree that general participation in other commissions would be good. But a dedicated committee specifically should be considered in its own right, so that we can find issues within the town and improve on a systematic level. If there is systemic racism, we need a systematic solution. And I believe that such a committee would essentially combat this issue. If we are truly interested in formalizing and expediting that process, we should have a committee as its priority. Other cities and towns with fewer means and resources have these sorts of committees, and I believe we can do it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suzuki. Our next speaker is Amy.
Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Rather than take up my full 3 minutes, I would just like to emphatically second everything that Jeff just said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Alicia Cinema Stereo.
Hello, can you hear me now?
You can. Welcome.
Okay, hi, thank you. I just wanted to say that I also would like to third what Jeff had said. I do greatly believe that this committee would very much help efforts in actually creating a community that would be inclusive. And also, we had those meetings in which we all had met and kind of brainstormed ideas in which we could actually tackle these issues. We all came up with great ideas. And the last meeting that we had, Jeff actually quoted the police chief and Laurel Prevetti of saying that they agreed that we should have a social worker instead of police reach out to issues that were not needing a police officer, really. But then in the last meeting, it just kind of seems like everything that we had discussed, everything, that quote that Laurel said, that quote that police chief said, it just was completely swept aside. as we're working together, I mean, I know Maria, I know Mariko, I know Laurel. I've spoken with all of you guys. You guys are awesome. We're creating a trust here. And it's just a little bit frustrating that we spend the time, we take the time, we have this energy, we're so excited, and we get together and we brainstorm, we come up with ideas, and then nothing. In fact, it's kind of opposite. So I just would really hope that everything that we come up with on both sides, police chief actually agreed also, let's make it happen. You know, I don't see any reason not to. We have an opportunity now that we can make Los Gatos better. Instead of just going with what we've been comfortable with for a long time, we've got, new people on. Let's keep that energy going. We've got people involved. Let's do this, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Ali Miano?
Thank you. Yes, I just want to second what all my colleagues have said. I know we have talked about this quite a bit now, but a commission could help ensure that there's outreach to various people of color. One of my colleagues in the Los Gatos Anti-Racism Coalition, Amy Nishide, was talking about another committee whose name she could tell you better than I, about parks. And, I mentioned to her that to my knowledge, the only commemoration to the Ohlone, whose lands we now occupy, is, next to the freeway under the Main Street overpass. Can't we do a little bit better than that? And might we think to do a little bit better than that if our committees had some of the diversity that really would reflect Los Gatos, right? I mean, yes, we may be a community that is 80% white, but what about the 20%? What are we doing to reach out to them, to work with them, whether it's recognition for different communities, whether it's fair policing, whether it's fair housing? We've got to get going on this stuff. There's no reason for us to lag behind the various other cities and towns in the area that, as Amy told you, do have DEIs. So just want to support that and keep hopefully encouraging you all, if not, pushing or or marching in the streets as well, but encouraging you all to take action and to make some positive change in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers tonight? Emmerich Bisbee.
Hey, thanks everyone. I just wanted to also talk about that conversation with the police chief. I think he specifically said that if there were healthcare professionals out there that could be on call to defund us. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, that'd be a great idea to go look for those kinds of people. Decina said, and this is a quote, I think, one of the recommendations was to hire a social worker for the town of Los Gatos. I'd be happy to do that. I think it would be hard to find a licensed clinician to do this, shift work 24/7. I think we all want that, and I would be happy for that. If we can find some kind of solution, honestly, if you can take mental health calls and homeless issues off our plates, defund me in a heartbeat, defund me. But I don't think we're there yet. We're working on it. I think it's very important, but we're trying to work towards solutions. So the timestamp is 1 hour, 17 minutes and 45 seconds in that call. So he says, we're not there yet, we're working on it. Let's work on it. Let's make it happen. Let's find these people. Our town needs it. And thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. And any other speakers tonight? Okay, I see no other speakers, and so I'll close verbal communications. And before, if I could just ask Town Manager Pravetti to just briefly share with the council as well as the public the discussions we've had on reorganizing so that we can start to highlight some of the work items that we have been doing under DEI. Ms. Pravetti?
Thank you. So as was mentioned last week, the council did unanimously endorse the notion of diversity, equity, and inclusion in its strategic priorities. We have disseminated the strategic priorities to all town staff and are in the process of disseminating it to all of our town commissions. We have asked the liaisons to each commission to make sure that we are working towards DEI in all of their efforts. Each commission will have an opportunity to come to the council at a future date this calendar year to talk about their work plan and specifically to mention DEI. Very quickly last week, our Complete Streets Commission immediately jumped on board and they found a lecture series down at UCLA that will be streaming on the internet. And so at least one commissioner, if not more, as well as Director Morley, have signed up for a race in transportation discussion. So we'll have an opportunity to already start to learn what more can the town do in incorporating diversity, equity, justice, and inclusion in our work plans. In addition, I do want to just remind the community that when council acted on the police reforms, they did agree that at this point we would not be hiring a social worker, but instead be continuing to work with county behavioral health. And we continue to do that on critical calls regarding mental health crises. We've had a very good collaboration with many calls, but not all. And again, I just want to remind everyone that our officers are trained in crisis management and have excellent de-escalation skills and continue to really support our town and its individual members who are in crisis, getting them the resources that they need. So that is a work in progress. We are going to be providing quarterly updates on our police reforms to the council. So I'll be working with the chief and the mayor to get that scheduled later on this spring, this first quarter. So that way you'll see how we're doing on our traffic stop data, how we're doing on mental health calls, where are we with the oversight, et cetera. So we are acting. I know it may not be fast enough, but in terms of housing, I would just really encourage everyone to stay engaged with the general plan process, because really that's where the housing policies are being crafted at this particular time. They'll be talking community design on Thursday at 7 p.m. Through Zoom, and everyone is welcome to join us. So really happy to see the community engaged in this issue and look forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we have one item under other business tonight, item number 7, which is a First Amendment to a parking agreement with Tesla. And I believe Mr. Morley, Director Morley, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. This item is an amendment, recommendation for an amendment with Tesla for a parking agreement. In December of 2017, the council approved the agreement to install 12 parking stations for Tesla Quick Charge in our north parking lot, which is to the north side of Highway 9. In addition to that, they installed infrastructure for 8 additional future quick charge stations, and they installed 4 level 2 stations for free use by all other electric vehicle manufacturing or owners to charge at. Later in January of last year, Tesla came back to staff and let us know that they were interested in installing the 8 additional charging stations. We had some discussions about what that would look like. At that point, because we had completed the parking study and we had a little different environment, staff let Tesla know that it was would be our recommendation that we monetize those parking places. And Tesla agreed, although we had a difficult time coming to agreement on the dollar amount. Ultimately, at the end of last year, in about December, Tesla decided that the amount that staff was asking for, market rate for those parking spaces, would be acceptable. So they agreed to that as the term. So with that, we've provided amendment. The amendment has several items. Basically, it resets the term to start in January of this year. It brings revenue of $8,000 a month to the town. And then separately, staff is recommending that the dollars from revenue from this agreement be set aside this year in the general fund allocated reserve, but ultimately in a separate parking fund to be used for downtown improvements and potentially to be joined by other parking revenue should we have some in the future. And that action would actually take place at the fiscal year. And with that, that concludes my report. And of course, I'm here to support any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director Morley. Council members, any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will ask the public if anyone in the attendees list would like to speak on this item. Item number 7. Seeing none, I will close public testimony and bring it back to council members. It appears there's no questions. So would anyone like to provide any comments? And if not, a motion. Councilmember Risto.
I would just have to say, I think we're moving all in the right direction. This is a great use of excess parking spaces. Having actually participated in the parking counts, I know that there are always extra spaces there. So it's a great way to encourage people to come and charge their vehicles and, encourage electric vehicles coming to Los Gatos. So I move to approve the, oh gosh, I'm on the wrong item. Okay. I move to approve the First Amendment to the parking agreement with Tesla for the installation of the 8 additional charging stations in the North Lot. Also resetting the agreement and establishing the lease payments to the town.
Thank you. A second? Would anyone like to second? Yes, Councilmember Hudis.
Second, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, Councilmember Risto.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Rennie.
Aye.
Councilmember Hudis.
Aye.
Councilmember Badami.
Aye.
I also vote aye, and it passes unanimously. And with that, that is the end of tonight's business. We are at 7:26. Let's see if we can keep this up. Anyway, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.